Good morning, everyone, and happy to be back with our Sailing to Lisbon webinars. This is a webinar series that we're using to promote the European Public Health Conference that's taking place in November in Lisbon. And several of the topics that we're addressing in this webinar series are connected with the themes of the conference. The conference will take place in November, as I said, in Lisbon. And one of the themes actually connects with innovation. So I'll just briefly share two short videos on why Lisbon was indeed awarded the title of European Capital of Innovation in 2023. So there are two short videos. So indeed, innovation is about the people that live, that work, that study in Lisbon, but it's also about the city and what the environment of the city helps in promoting innovation. So you'll be welcome in Lisbon in November to experience all the sites, all the experiences that Lisbon has to offer. Without further ado, I'll bring you the two moderators for today's session. So we have both Paulo and Carlos. So thank you for accepting the challenge to moderate this session on One Health. So Paulo and Carlos, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much, Ricardo. It's a great pleasure for me to be part of the scientific committee for the 17th European Public Health Conference, and an honor to be here today moderating this webinar dedicated to a topic that is central to public health. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another webinar held as part of the organization of the annual conference of the European Public Health Association, which, as Ricardo mentioned, this year will take place in Lisbon from 12 to 15 of November. Today's webinar is dedicated to One Health, an essential and crucial topic for public health. The concept One Health was coined early this century. However, the underlying idea has a much longer history, with roots tracing back to the work of Rudolf Virchow, a German physician and pathologist in the 19th century, who emphasized the interconnectedness of human veterinary medicine. The term One Health, as it is used today, was firstly prominently brought to the forefront by the Wildlife Conservation Society at a meeting held in 2004. This meeting, known as the One World, One Health Conference, resulted in the Manhattan Principles, which formally recognized the interdependence of human, animal, and environmental health. Thus, One Health is a collaborative, multisectorial, and transdisciplinary approach that works at the local, regional, national, and global levels to achieve optimal health outcomes by recognizing the interconnection, as I mentioned before, between human, animal, and environmental health. Today's webinar features three distinguished speakers, whom I would like to thank once again for their willingness to participate in this session. So thank you very much to Professor Robert Skov, Professor Constanza Pomba, and Professor Chiara Cadedo. In terms of the session structure, each presenter will have around 15 to 18 minutes to make their presentation, and at the end, we will have about 25 to 30 minutes for discussion and a Q&A session. I have the pleasure of having here with me to co-moderate this session Dr. Carlos Paulos, an internal medicine physician with a large experience in the area of hospital-acquired infection and antimicrobial resistance, and he is also a PhD student here at the Nova National School of Public Health. So, Carlos, thank you very much for being here, and now I pass the word over to you to introduce our first guest.
Thank you very much, Professor Paulo. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to everyone which is attending this webinar. And thank you for inviting me also for this co-moderation. So it's my huge pleasure to be here and to present two of the speakers, starting with Robert Skov, which is a clinical microbiologist and president of the European Society of Clinical Microbiology and Infectious Diseases, which is one of the largest societies in the world. And Robert also is a senior consultant at ICARS, is a senior consultant at the Staten Serum Institute, epidemiological infectious diseases preparedness at Copenhagen in Denmark, and also is a good friend of mine. So thank you very much for being here with us, and I hand over to you to your talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Paulo, and thank you very much, Carlos, for this very nice introduction. And first of all, thank you to all the organizers for inviting me to speak here today. So I will start on giving you a short talk about the concept and the implications of One Health on AMR, just to set the stage and keep that all of us are on the same page. So let me see, I just need to find where I share. Oh, like this. Okay. So resistance, just to remind you, resistance is a natural but very complex phenomenon. So this here is actually the way that the microorganisms are used to survive in this hostile environment that they are living in today. And that means that it is present in all the different bacterial communities, both in humans, in agricultural, as well as in the environment. And it's present both in pathogenic and in non-pathogenic, or what we also call commercial bacteria. There's two kinds of resistance that you need to know of. There is the intrinsic, and that means that the bacteria is born with the resistance. And then there is the acquired, and that is what we are really concerned about. Here, you're talking about the de novo. That means that you're creating new resistances that could be by mutations. And the second one is uptake of antimicrobial resistant genes, also called horizontal gene transfer. Or there is also other kinds of gene transfers that you can have. And that means that the microorganisms are able to exchange and swap resistances as well as other genes that make them more survival for fitting the local community that they are. Such antimicrobial resistant genes can be part of mobile genetic elements, which can also harbor other genes, which then can favor its spread both among bacteria from the same species, but also between different bacterial species. And finally, it's really important that exchange of resistant genes and antibiotic resistant bacteria, they don't respect neither borders nor sectors. So antimicrobials, where come this in? Well, antimicrobials really speed up both the de novo creation and the uptake of antimicrobial resistant genes. And furthermore, it kills all the sensitive bacteria towards that antibiotic, which includes our normal flora that we have both on our skin, in our gut, and this is true for all living creatures to have such a normal flora. And all in all, this leads to selecting of resistance microorganisms. So the spread of resistance is thus very heavily affected by two things: the use of antimicrobials and the transmission of resistant genes between different bacteria, and also other kinds of microorganisms. But here today, I will focus on the bacteria. We, on the other hand, has two measures against this. One of them is antimicrobial stewardship, and the second one is infection prevention and control. This is what we could name it in the human health sector, whereas in the animal health sector, this is most often called biosecurity. This complex slide here is just to showcase how interlinked and how complex the resistance exchange is among the different sectors, that be the human sector, the food and animal sector. I don't know if I can use my pin here, so I'll try at least, as well as the environment. And here you see both hospitalized community, but you also see the close connections towards companion animals. So, and also wildlife, streams and rivers. So this here is really a very complex ecosystem that we need to take into account when we are looking at antimicrobial resistance. And this is practically why we need to talk about the One Health. There has been several reviews looking in to see what are the drivers of antimicrobial resistance, and both in the individual sectors, but also across sectors. In this review here from Dr. Holmes in 2016, you can see that the highest driver, or the biggest driver, is the antibiotic misuse or overuse, both in humans and animals. And then there is several other different aspects, like suboptimal rapid diagnostics, suboptimal dosing, and so forth. But what is really worth noting is that we really don't have very good quantitative assessment for the contribution of these individual parts. And that goes both intersectorial, that means within the human space, within the animal space, and within the environment, but it certainly goes between the cross-sectorial. And here, the big debate very often is, yes, you have resistance in one sector, but what is the spillover into other sectors? One thing I think is really crucial, and I think we have all learned that, for instance, with the COVID situation, but also right at the moment with the flu, with the bird influenza that has been seen in cows. The fact is that it only takes one successful introduction to have cross-sectorial spread. And that a successful introduction means that there needs to be a successful transfer, there needs to be a successful establishment in the sector or in the biosphere that this is happening in, and then there needs to be successful further transmission. And key for all this is positive selection is the big driver of all of this. And among all the selection pressures, the use of antimicrobials is by far the most important driver. This also means that even if you do have successful cross-sectorial spread, well, it's actually the use of antibiotics within the incoming sector that that decides how big a problem will this introduction be. And then when we are looking into proving that this is happening, it's very important to acknowledge that this is not necessarily a linear chain of events. So first of all, antimicrobial resistance genes may transfer to other bacteria of the same or different species. And furthermore, you may actually not see it directly because you can have the transmission and then just be a silent carrier that then can transmit it further. So what are the consequences here? Well, the World Bank has looked into this, and as you can see in this picture here, you can see that this here will actually not only have serious health implications, but will actually put in 28 million people more into deep poverty. It will mean up to a 7.5% reduction in global livestock production, a 3.8% decline in global export, and really a huge amount of cost. So just in the healthcare, it is estimated that this year could be up to $1 trillion in increased healthcare costs up to 2050. And recently, the Global Leaders Group was looking at this figure again, and actually came down to the figure that the antimicrobial resistance in the human health sector already is costing close to 900 billion US dollars every year on the worldwide scale. This also means that AMR is seriously threatening the sustainable development goals as is shown here on your right. So coming back to this, this is very clear that we need to have a concept of One Health. And as Paula was saying, even though the concept has been discussed at least among professionals for more than 150 years, it's only quite new that the term One Health was really coined, and it's quite recently that the tripartite formed the joint AMR Secretariat to coordinate the global response against AMR, taking a One Health approach. So as Paula was mentioning, the One World, One Health was really first time used in 2004, but it was not until 2010, that means 15 years ago, that the One Health term was really coined. So what is the definitions of One Health? Well, there has been over time quite a few different definitions. And here you see the definition of the One Health high-level expert panel that was set down by the quadripartite. And here One Health is defined as an integrated, unifying approach that aims to sustainably balance and optimize the health of humans, animals, plants, and ecosystems. It also recognizes the health of humans, domestic and wild animals, plants, and the wider environment, and are closely linked and interdependent, as you will see. But interestingly enough, even though that we have this common definition from the OLAP, if you look up at the United CDC's website, you will still find a slightly different definition even here in 2024. Here you see it more graphically represented, where you see here on your left the different sectors and disciplines. You see on the right the different societal components, and you see at the bottom the ecosystems from the humans, the animals, and the environment. And all of this is the One Health. And what the key thing here is that there is four keywords, that is communication, coordination, collaboration, and capacity building. So in order to really actionable these things here, you see here the One Health Joint Action Plan by the Quadripartite, which was published here from 2022 to 2026. And here you see Action Track 5, which is really talking about the antimicrobial resistant component on the One Health. We need to remember that One Health is much more than just resistant. But if you look at all the 6 action tracks, all 6 is actually quite very important for, or has important implications for AMR. One of the good parts here is that given the last 6 to 8 years, more than 170 countries has now a national cross-sectorial national action plans. The not so good thing is that less than 90%, 90 of the countries has actually starting implementing their plans, and less than 10% has costed their plans. And this is a really a challenge toward the global community, that we really need to get action across the countries, but all not the least across the different sectors. One recent thing that has happened is that we have had the One Health Global Research Priority Agenda, which was published in 2023, again coming from the Quadripartite, that means the 4 big organizations, the WHO, FAO, the World Animal Organization, and the UNEP. And here you see the 5 key elements of the research agenda, going from transmission, integrated surveillance, interventions, behavioral insights and challenges, but also not the least, the economics and politics. So I'll end up giving you 2 examples why the One Health is very important. So the first one is on the Staphylococci. Staphylococci, you all know, Staph aureus is one of the most common causes of skin and soft tissue infections. And here you see a fully susceptible Staphylococci coming from the human, and which was then spread to the animals, where the animals were then fed with antibiotics, which led to first to tetracycline resistance, and then they became methicillin resistant. That means that they are resistant toward all the class of beta-lactam antibiotics, including penicillin. And these bacteria actually do not harm any of the pigs, but is now transferred back into the farmers, and from where they can transmit out to the greater society. A second one is from E. coli bacteria. All of you know E. coli bacteria, which is one of the most common bacteria that we have in the gut. And in a study from United States, they were looking at E. coli bacteria from retail poultry meat, as well as from patient samples from the same time period. And what they were able to show is that 8% of the E. coli isolates that they found in human urinary tract infections carried genetic markers that was clearly associated with poultry, strongly indicating that they actually originated from the poultry and was transferred to humans via the food. This 8% may not sound big, but it's actually among about 500,000 of the UTIs that are seen in United States, and which is more than any other non-E. coli causes of urinary tract infections. And this is what you see in United States. So what does this translate to in countries with less hygienic or biosecurity practices? So I will end up here by stating once again that AMR, even though that it is very vocal for us in the community and who is doing this every day, it's out in the community a silent evolving pandemic, which is to a large extent unrecognized both by the civil society, policymakers, and politicians. And there is an urgent need to really make this clear to everyone and to get actions in all sectors using a One Health approach. That means that we need policies and structures in place to ensure cross-sector mitigation of AMR, both locally, regionally, and globally. One of the most, or there is two really targets that we have. One is prudent use of antimicrobials as well as other co-selecting agents, which has to be done in all sectors. And this requires that we have both antimicrobial and diagnostic stewardship. But it also needs to have mitigation of transmissions of both antibiotic resistant bacteria and antimicrobial resistant genes. And that means that we need to have good hygiene practices and biosecurity, but it also needs that we need to have very good management practices. So with this, I will thank you and happy to take part of the discussion later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Robert, for your excellent talk. So we can see that there are no borders for bacteria and for other microorganisms, no borders between countries, no borders between species. So we need to look at all these as a whole, One Health strategy. Thank you very much. Questions will be made at the end if there are any questions. And now I'm going to hand over Professor Constança Pomba, which is a very well-renowned professor of veterinary. So she is an associate professor of internal medicine and antimicrobial therapy at the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine of the University of Lisbon. Constança Pomba is also a member of the experts that was raising the ECDC, EMA, and EFSA indicators for antibiotic consumption and antimicrobial resistance in humans and animals some years ago. And she's also a member of the ASHCMED, where she has she works at the veterinarian group. And well, I could say here for a lot of lists of things that she does, but I want also to say that she is the director of the Satellite Training Center of the European College of Veterinary Microbiology at GenVet here at Carnegie near Lisbon. Well, and also I have the honor to have her as a great friend of mine. So, Constança, please, the stage is yours, and thank you very much for being here with us. Thank you. So, please, Constança, the stage is yours, and thank you very much. Thank you very much for being here with us. Thank you. So, please, Constança, the stage is yours, and thank you very much for being here.
Hello, good morning to everyone. I hope that you are hearing me well. I have been having some hello, good morning to everyone. I hope that some issues with the sound, but I will try to share my screen now. Thank you so much, Dr. Carlos Paulus, for your
We are, as you can see, we are having some sound problems. We are trying to solve it, so sorry for this disturbance.
So I'm trying now to see if there is no echo. Are you hearing me perfectly, Carlos?
Yes, it seems
So
that
I'm trying
now
now.
it is working properly. Thank you
Well,
very
the
much.
echo has started.
Are you hearing me perfectly, Carlos?
Okay, so due to some technical issues, we'll now, for our next speaker, Professor Chiara Cadedo, who will focus her presentation on environmental issues, bridging to the concept of planetary health. So Chiara Cadedo is an associated professor at Erasmus School of Health Policy and Management in Rotterdam, the Netherlands. She is member of the steering committee of UFA, Environmental and Health section of the steering committee of the Planetary Health Alliance and involved in international leading health organizations. Chiara is a medical doctor by background, and she was previously the scientific coordinator of the Italian Institute for Planetary Health, contributing with several publications and conference abstracts to growing the field. So, Chiara, thank you very much for being here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Paolo, and thank you for both the introduction and the invitation to this webinar. It's my pleasure today to speak about planetary health and on how it's really time to grow together for planetary health and One Earth. So let's start. Let me start from the introduction related to planetary health. This is just one of the main and several definitions that we have of planetary health. It's the most recent one issued by the Planetary Health Alliance in 2021, and personally is also the one that I prefer because it really integrates some concepts that are also differentiating the planetary health approach compared to other approaches like the One Earth and others. Because you see that it underlines the solutions-oriented transdisciplinarity and the social movement, which are at the core of planetary health. The focus of this quite new discipline, we will see that it was born only less than 10 years ago, in 2015. It's its focus on the analysis and try to address the impacts of human disruptions to Earth's natural system on human health and on all life on Earth. And in the figure below, you see that this is a discipline very well connected also with some social elements. And this is also related to the system thinking approach, which is mainly used to deal with all the planetary health elements and focuses. And I would like to start also describing one of the main pillars of planetary health, which is represented by the planetary boundaries. which is a concept that was presented in 2009 by Johan Rockström, who is a famous scientist previously working at the Stockholm Resilience Center in Sweden and then moving to the Charité Institute in Berlin. And this concept of these 9 planetary boundaries describes how humanity can continue to develop and thrive for generations, but staying in this safe operating space. So trying not to deliver disruption to the main 9 areas which are connected to environmental health. So novel entities, just like microplastics, the stratospheric ozone depletion, the atmospheric aerosol loading, the ocean acidification, the biogeochemical flows, the freshwater change, the land system change, the biosphere integrity, and last but not least, the climate change. So crossing boundaries actually increases the risk of generating large-scale abrupt or even irreversible environmental changes. And it means that, of course, drastic changes are not necessarily happening overnight, but together these boundaries mark a critical threshold for increasing risk to people and the ecosystems we are part of. So boundaries are interrelated processes within the complex biophysical Earth system, and this means that a global focus on climate change alone is not sufficient for increased sustainability. But we have to understand the interplay of boundaries, especially climate and loss of biodiversity, which is, as we all know, a key in science and practice. And if we look at the figure on the right, we see that just last year in 2023, there was an evolution given by Rockström and other important scientists in the field, just like Yohita Gupta. And the aim of this new kind of boundaries was the integration of justice. So the idea of avoiding significant harm to people across the world with this environmental and climate justice and bringing it into the concept of the 9 planetary boundaries further tighten safe operating range for humans on Earth with regard to climate, water, biosphere, nutrient use and cycle and all the pollutants. So they finally really issued a safe and just Earth system boundaries concept. And this is another important publication just released at the beginning of this year in 2024 on global transitions. We see that the authors tried to explore the nexus comparing and aligning planetary health, One Earth, and eco-health. This figure visually depicts the interconnections and dependencies of the 3 approaches and try to emphasize the complex web of relationships and interactions among these 3 critical fields of the study. The broken arrows that you see represent the direct and indirect interdependence and reciprocal relationship between planetary health and eco-health, and also One Earth and eco-health, so all the 3 approaches. And I think it's a very powerful visual symbol because it really underscores how actions and changes within any of these domains can send consequences and implications throughout the others. So this is not a unidirectional cause and effect relationship, but a real dynamic network of connections. I'm not going into detail of this slide, but you can see that in a nutshell, One Earth can be defined as an area that stresses connection between human, animal, and environmental health, and it's especially dedicated on zoonosis and zoonotic diseases. Eco-health is supposedly focused on biodiversity, and planetary health has its focus more on the Anthropocene and its consequences and the ecosystems in terms of human health. But these are only issues of emphasis, as we were already describing. I also like very much this visual representation of all the different approaches that we commonly hear about in public health. So there is, as you can see, public health and environmental health, which are probably the most diffused and the disciplines that are very well known around our worlds. But there are also global health, One Health, planetary health. You see that it's not about one better than the other, but it's a real matter of integration of each of these disciplines, one with the other. And always from the same article, you can see some fundamental questions addressed where you can find some slight differences across the three approaches. So planetary health asks, for instance, how do changes in Earth systems affect human health, while One Health is more focused on understanding how do zoonotic diseases emerge and spread. EcoHealth asks how do ecosystem changes and disruptions affect human health, but you can see also that, for instance, in the planetary health questions, you find SDGs, but we saw that SDGs in the previous presentation, that SDGs are also very well connected and related to AMR. So it's just to underline how very strongly these approaches are connected one each other. And again, some focus and scopes. You heard already the definitions, so I will not go in detail on these, but I would like to pose your attention on the emphasis, which are different. Planetary health has a more global perspective in terms of sustainability, in terms of social justice, in terms of equity, the systemic approach that I was mentioning at the beginning, while the One Health approach uses a multidisciplinary approach, which is slightly different from the transdisciplinary approach used in planetary health. And finally, EcoHealth considers more the ecological, social, and economic aspects of health and emphasizes the ecosystem and community well-being. So it's more on an economic perspective. And moreover, there are, of course, distinctions, resemblances, and alignment across these three disciplines. You see that about distinctions, planetary health mainly emphasizes the function of climate change, biodiversity loss, and environmental degradation on human health, but in a bidirectional way. So how human health is impacted by all these disruptions, but at the same time also how human health and healthcare can become sustainable, so trying to reduce their carbon footprint and the damage on Earth. And One Health promotes, we already saw, collaboration among multiple disciplines, but it's also dedicated to integrated surveillance, research, and policy to address shared health threats between humans and animals. So the focus on animals is much more highlighted and implemented in the One Health approach compared to the planetary health one. And finally, EcoHealth focuses on health arising from all these interactions, but as I was saying before, also trying to do some research to action and trying to really implement what are the results of research in terms of links also with the economic systems. From a research viewpoint, we see that the percentage of publications where these three disciplines were collaborating in the time frame 2015 to 2021 was not bad, because we see that around 70% and even more saw transdisciplinary collaboration in the three different approaches. But where we can improve is definitely the collaboration between Global North and South, and especially in the studies led by Global South independently. Of course, here there are also some issues related to the availability of funds for the Global South research. And this is another very interesting figure taken by a second pillar, I would say, article related to the connection between One Earth and planetary health research. Because it describes the publications relative to the total number of publications indexed in the Web of Science per year. And it's you can see at a glance, it's evident that One Earth appeared in publications before the planetary health approach, but it's also because, as I was mentioning before, planetary health was firstly defined in 2015. So it's clear that we have many more publications related to One Earth already starting at the end of the 1919, beginning of 2000, while for planetary health research, we had to wait until 2014, 2015. And this is always taken by the same article, the same commentary published on the Lancet Planetary Health, where you can find the keyword occurrence network graph of One Earth and planetary health research topics. And it's just a confirmation of what we already described before. So the main key concept, the main keywords used in One Earth research are, of course, the antimicrobial resistance, as well as the COVID-19, as well as the zoonosis, as well as infection and many other epidemiological aspects, mainly related to infectious diseases, zoonosis, and of course also the COVID pandemic. While for planetary health, on the right side of the slide, we can see that we have other kind of keywords, mainly related also to human health, so health in general, but also sustainability, of course COVID-19, and of course also climate change, which is one of also the main differences between the two different approaches. Finally, a figure taken from the same article, always the same article that I really advise you to read. It's also short, so it's not a matter of taking too much time. Here you can see the geographical distribution of institutions active in One Earth on the left panel and planetary Earth on the right, research in 2020 and 2021 by urban areas. First of all, you can see that both of these approaches and the research in these approaches are well spread across Europe and the United States and North America, especially on the eastern coast of the US and in Europe. But even if you go and focus on Europe, you can see that One Earth is much more spread across the different countries. It's clear how also in France and Spain there is much more focus on One Earth than planetary health. But what is important is also what I was saying before, that we really need to increase our collaboration with the Global South, because for instance in Africa, especially for planetary health, we still see very few dots about publications in this domain. So I would like to conclude, and this is my last slide, with an important message. It is always taken from the commentary of the Lancet Planetary Health, so you will find it again if you will then read this very short article. But I really like what they said, and I really believe that we can move forward, because you saw that there are diversities. There is diversity across these different disciplines, but this should not be a reason to diverge or compete. but to collaborate. So overall, One Health and Planetary Health are highly complementary fields of scientific inquiry with solid leverage for translation, both into policy and into practice. So we have really an opportunity to build a stronger research community and transdisciplinary evidence to collectively address pressing public and global health issues in a truly integrated way. Because above all, we know that life on Earth is at risk, and our diversity will only make us stronger. So thank you very much for your attention, and I'm really happy to then answer your questions finally.
So thank you very much, Chiara, for your excellent talk. And well, let's move back to Professor Constança Pomba. I hope the problem with the sound is already solved. So I will not introduce you again because you are already introduced. So please, the stage is yours. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you so much. I hope, and I'm sorry for the sound issues. Apple is not what it used to be. Sometimes we have to shut down the computer, and I just forgot it. So here is my presentation. I'm very honored to be here. I'm giving a little bit the veterinary side, the One Health perspective of the animal health approach. So we know, and I feel that when we are talking about antimicrobial resistance, we're talking about this silent pandemic, this silent wave that compromises One Health and also planetary health, because the both, as Chiara said, are complementary. So moving on, how do vets perceive One Health? And here you have a lot of veterinarians making physical examinations like human physicians, and I thought for an audience that's normally used to hear from the human side, seeing some veterinary doctors at work will be nice, because the animal health is a problem for our daily life, for the veterinary practitioner, and is closely connected to the health of people and our common environment. And also, I want to transmit that we veterinarians, we have a highly perception of our ethicals and of our actions and how they impact in either AMR or zoonosis or transmission. So we used not to think so much about it, but now we are fully embracing this One Health concept, which for us is it's our daily life and is in our daily decisions, and has repercussions that we already know. So what about the use of antimicrobials? I wanted to share this WHO 2024, and I will quote it. Because AMR develops and transfers within and among all sectors, minimizing the risk of emergence and transmission of AMR calls for a One Health approach. And this particular document has just come out, and it's complementary to the WHO list of medical important antimicrobials. It's another way. It's a risk management tool for mitigation antimicrobial resistance to the non-human use, which is the part that we vets are concerned about. And I just wanted, because it's so different, the concept, I wanted just to speak a little bit very clearly about how antimicrobials were categorized by the World Health Organization, and they were with criteria C1, C2, and then they had prioritization factors that really change. And how this list of medical important antimicrobials change the use in veterinary medicine. It's because now we apply, there's an application of prioritization factors that takes into account the essential medicine use in human medicine and the risk of transfer. So the refinement and the names that we used to in veterinary medicine, at least we had the ABCD categorization from the European Medicine Agency. Now we have to address when we are prescribing. We have to think, because we think when we prescribe, what is the risk of transfer of resistance. And in this new prioritization of antimicrobial classes, as you can see, there is a new concept. There is the concept of authorized for use in humans only, and authorized for animals only. And then we have a much simpler classification of important antimicrobials or essential medicines, essential antimicrobials. We have the highest priority, the critical important antimicrobials, the highest important antimicrobials, and the important antimicrobials. And we have here a potential high to low risk of IMR transfer when they are used. And what I wanted to show you and share with you is my concern. Okay, here they are not authorized for humans. Here they are authorized for humans only, and we respect that. But look, authorized both for humans and animals are a lot of categories, namely the highest priority critical important antimicrobials, the CIAs, and other ones, which is a bit different from what we were used to. So right now, as we see it, is that we are using highest priority critical important antimicrobials for humans, like the quinolones, the third and fourth generations cephalosporins, and polymyxins like colistin. And also we are using critical important antimicrobials like the macrolides, despite that catolides are a bit reserved for human use and are being separated from the macrolides. And the next question that pops into my mind is AMR and animal health. Where did we start? And now I wanted to take a different approach from the previous talks, and just let me share my own experience when because I work in antimicrobial resistance for I am not saying how many years, but Robert knows. He knows me from the start. So I wanted to share the view of a veterinarian who is an internist, who also is a veterinary microbiology specialist, and who is and prescribes also. So there's both. In the veterinary field, we are still allowed, and that's so great to have this amplified aspect of our interventions. And we started by wanting to study the critical group of antimicrobial resistant bacterial pathogens in animal health. And for that, we went and we look what are the critical binomia of drug-resistant bacterial pathogens in human medicine. And as you can see, we have the critical group, the high group, the medium group, and the critical group poses the highest risk to public health due to limited treatment options. And of course, it comports a high disease burden with mortality and morbidity and increasing trends of antimicrobial resistance pathogen. And this critical group has few or no promising candidates in the pipeline. As you can see, we have Acinetobacter baumannii, carbamide resistance. We have Enterobacterialis resistance to third generation cephalosporins. And we have also resistance to carbapamines. And you know what? This is exactly what we see emerging in the veterinary world. So, and that's why after we started to see this rising, this emergence of this binomia bacteria, AMR, and highly untreatable, we looked for JP-AMR, which is a joint programming initiative on antimicrobial resistance. And here I think everything that has been thought by the European Union is integrated in a One Health priority for a research agenda on antimicrobial resistance. And we have started with surveillance, we went to transmission and to environment, and we also have a little bit of intervention in our research group. So I think one of the fewest time that our Fundação para a Ciência e Tecnologia, FCT, was available in the joint program initiative of AMR of the European Union, and we were was perhaps 1 or 2 years. We are not now as a country, which is really very, very sad for all of us that to research on antimicrobial resistance. But we got lucky, and there was a call where Portugal could participate, and we got very lucky. We got this PET-RISK consortium built of five countries, with Canada included, the UK, Germany, Switzerland, and us. So why did we have this huge amount of financing for our colleagues and us? And this has given us an excellent opportunity of finding answers that we wanted to seek. And the main answer, was what was the contribution of companion animals which live in and cohabitate in close contact with humans in the community, in the households. What was their contribution to the transmission of AMR? Were there the reservoirs? Were there the responsible for transmitting resistance? Because we only normally, when we speak about animal health, we speak about foodborne pathogens, zoonotic pathogens, and foodborne bacteria, either pathogenic like Campylor or Salmonella, or commensal. And we have already much data on that issue, and programs running in the EU. We are a very lucky continent because we have 4 major agencies regulating, besides DG Sanko in the European Union, regulating our food security, our food chain, and our food producing animals. But then the pets are a little bit behind, and we wanted to know why. And this was a fight that came before. I will let you know why companion animal healthcare is so important, and nothing like numbers. If you see here, from 2022, in Europe, we had 352 million pets in Europe. Europe, and 50% of households own a pet. So 25% had at least one dog, 27% had at least one cat. So it's huge. In Portugal, for a comparison with Europe, we have about 6 million pets, companion animals. The majority dogs, 3 million, cats, 2 million, and then the other ornamental birds, small animals, aquaria, and terraria. And coming back a little bit, in 2017, I had this. I worked since 2007 as an expert on antibiotics at the European Medicine Agency, and I pushed this document forward for 3 years, and it was a successful document because I wanted to show and to make a point that was important to evaluate the public health risk of antimicrobial resistant transfer from companion animals. And we did this risk profiling, which bacteria were important. And as you can see, back then in 2017, we are back here in 2024. So really, it was a good risk profiling done because it led us to research our purpose and our niche, our setting that we call the veterinary healthcare, and that composes between the pets in the community, the pets in the hospital, the pets when they are healthy, when they are sick, what are their role in amplification of transmission in the community, are they transmitting genes or plasmids to humans, and so on. So we used a One Health approach since the beginning of our research, even when One Health was not still on the plate of the news like it is today. And we started to take advantage of using genomics. And NGS, next generation sequencing, is a huge technique that allows us to assess and prevent the major emergence of resistance towards the antimicrobials that we are mostly preoccupied, like the third and fourth generation cephalosporins, the carbamazepines, and colistin. So in our mind, the veterinary, the animal health, has to be seen as a setting that can amplify resistance and is integrated in the same community, the same environment as humans are. So a bit of case studies to be different. So let's think about colistin. Colistin has been used for decades, more than 60, 70 years in veterinary medicine, mainly as a prophylactic and a metaphylactic antimicrobial in pigs and cattle, and it for decades we had no problem with colistin. But then there was this need that the polymyxins, either E or B, depending on the continent, had to be used in ICUs in human medicine due to bacteria producing carbamazepines. And so the story just started to evolve in a way that 2015 was a turning point. It was a turning point because in China, which is actually a major reservoir of emergence of new resistant genes, MCR1 gene responsible for the probable resistance to colistin when a patient is treated in vivo in the hospital, if he has an MCR1 gene, or the animals are not treated, just the food producing animals, and there's a restriction on it since 7 years ago. The drop in the uses of colistin in food producing animals is lowering because of this discovery that the MCR gene started to be known in China, in humans, in animals, in the environment, and since then it has spread all over the world. And so we decided to look for the MCR gene. Where? In Europe, it was not described in the community, but we wanted to know what was the contribution of the MCR gene and if it was shared with dogs cohabiting with humans. And we found that we had two households from dogs that were with skin and soft tissue infection and were under antimicrobial treatment, and they carried E. coli ST744 harboring MCR gene, and that gene was mobilized in an ink HI2 type subtype ST4 similar plasmid as a human. So we have a dog and two dogs and two owners having the same plasmid MCR. So we have described, and it was, I think it's quite important, that healthy humans in the community have MCR gene carriage, which might be very hazardous if they have to enter the healthcare system. What about ESBL and AMP-C enterobacterialis? We made, with this consortium, the Petris consortium, we were able to make a lot of studies, and we studied longitudinally the cohabiting healthy companion animals, and you see later on the animals with urinary tract infection and skin and soft tissue infection in Portugal and in the United Kingdom in the Royal Veterinary College. And what we found is among healthy pets with humans in households regarding third and fourth generation cephalosporins, at this time, this study ended in 2022. We didn't get in healthy pets any carbapenem resistance at all. But we got colonization by ESPLMC producing enterobacterialis. 13%, almost 14% of the companion animals were colonized within the household. In the same households, 20% of the humans were colonized, and they were healthy humans. And not to bother you with the distribution and the genes responsible behind this resistant to third generation cephalosporins, we just wanted to point it out that mostly were CTX-M15 ESPL producers. And 40% of the strains that we studied on colonized animals and humans, healthy, were multi-drug resistant, which is quite worrisome. And here you can see three health hosts that shared ESPL producing E. coli between humans and their animals. And it's really easy to see because here you can see just how equal they are when they are shared. And they are shared, and these strains, these E. coli harboring ESPLs, are shared not in the United Kingdom. We didn't have data on that, but in Portugal we found not many, but some that were shared and had the same genetic features in either humans or animals. So we had the same E. coli strain, and we had the same features, the same plasmids, and the same genes. And the last paper coming out of this PET-RISC consortium was the dynamics on direct transmission of extended spectrum cephalosporin and carbapenem-resistant Enterobacteriales between the human families and their companion animals during different types of animal infection. And it's going to be submitted. And so we have here a view, and it's under review. It's almost up there. It's going to be really soon. And here we have the view that things change when we have sick pets. And this is really important for us as veterinarians. So we found that we had ESBL-MC producing Enterobacteriales in companion animals in Portugal, about 55%, less in the UK, and in humans in Portugal, about 36%, and the UK less. We found that an index clinical ESBL producing E. coli and Klebsiella pneumoniae strains causing infection in our animals were cohabiting with humans in 3 Portuguese households, and were exactly so. What about 7% of transmission? So even the clinical strain causing infection is transmitted in the human household. So this gave us a really good insight in what kind of interventions we have to do. So now we know that with skin and soft tissue infections in dogs mainly and cats, we don't allow them to go directly to a household where there is risk for the humans to be immunocompromised, like, for instance, a pregnant human, the presence of young children, babies, the elderly, someone who is under chemotherapy. We know that they can transmit their index bacteria, and also they can transmit the ESBL-MC producing Enterobacteriales that they are carrying in their gut. So we have to have measures of control and infections in the household when we have sick animals. And this has changed the way that we speak with the owners of the animals, and the way that we are seeing when we prescribe. If we have a multi-drug resistant bacteria causing infection, we already know that probably that animal will be colonized with multi-drug resistant bacteria, and so we'll be careful and instruct the owners on mainly disinfection and basic infection control measures, like washing hands and using gloves when touching the sick pet. So what worried from these results was that we found that when the companion animal is sick, they may carry a carbapenem producing Enterobacteriales, and we observe OXA 181 in a dog in Portugal and another in the UK, and this is really a problem, the carbapenemas. So we also we were on track a little bit the dissemination of the carbapenemase that was isolated in the PET-RISC consortium study, and the BLA NDM carrying X3 type plasmid was among non-clonal E. coli strains colonizing a dog in the skin, in the gut, in their nostrils, and it was this dog was also having an infection caused by a carbapenem-resistant Klebsiella pneumoniae. So, and the story is long, but making it short, the NDM plasmid was similar to many plasmids in the study and that were on the PET and were similar to published sequences of human INC-X3 type plasmids also, which is quite a problem. Continuing on, you have noticed that I've started to talk about plasmids. And during our surveillance, in just 1 year, we found a KPC producing Klebsiella pneumoniae from a dog's clinical isolate in Portugal. And it was this Klebsiella pneumoniae was causing infection. And also, it was very similar, the plasmid, as you can see here, the plasmid was very similar to a plasmid of a French nosocomial isolate. And we wonder, how come we don't have a sequence of a plasmid with a KPC producing Klebsiella pneumoniae in Portugal? Actually, this plasmid that was on the database was from a human patient in Oporto, I don't know, and I won't say which hospital, and went to a French hospital. And there, this plasmid was detected and sequenced. Furthermore, we wanted to know the prevalence of carbapneumosis-producing Enterobacterialis in the community, causing and mainly causing infections in companion animals, because this affects our whole setting, our animal health care setting. And the frequency is still low. It's about 0.55%. So 5 strains out of 9077. And I have to have some help about the time, please, because I speak a lot. So we found OXA 181 producing Klebsiella pneumoniae, 2 KPCs, and I'm just showing this slide so you see that we have a high degree of homology to human nosocomial references. So now the question is, who is transmitting what? Probably I'm out of time, but I'm just finishing. Yeah, so we wanted to know if the healthcare was also a problem, and we went to healthcare, and yes, we had a Cinetobacter, the OXA 23 contaminating veterinary environment surfaces. And they were just popping out these plasmids that were similar to human plasmid between different species of Acinetobacter. And so what do we do to keep the 3 settings healthy? We need to restrict use and preserve antibiotics. And with this, I thank you very much. And I hope my experience gave you some insight about the veterinary field and the small setting and large of companion animals all over the globe. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. And I'd like to thank the 3 speakers for your excellent presentations, which I'm sure will now allow us to have a few minutes for 1 or 2 questions. I don't know if you have any question or comment on the website. I don't know, Carlos, I have one general question, but if you have another, please go ahead.
Well, we don't have questions from the audience, and we are running out of time. Well, I can ask you if you, for the 3 of you, from each point of view, from the human point of view, for the environmental, and from the animal point of view, which you think it could be the most important, the most relevant action to be taking for preventing the antimicrobial resistance on this One Health concept. So starting by Skov, by order of presentation.
Thank you very much. That's an impossible question for a 2-second answer. But first of all, I would like to say that solutions are different from different spaces. So even we're talking humans, there is a huge difference between what we are seeing in global north in Denmark and what we are seeing in global south. So here in global north, there's no doubt that antimicrobial stewardship is the most important thing to do. In global south, even though antimicrobial stewardship is very important, I would say separating clean drinking water and sewage is probably the most important thing here. And taking it one step further, to secure running water and possibility to do cleaning in healthcare systems in global south. So just to say, it is really complex, even if we just start in one sector. Over.
Thank you. Chiara, can you comment on your side?
Yes, thank you for this question. I absolutely agree with Robert, and more from a planetary health perspective, we can say that for AMR, as well as for many other topics, we would really benefit from a transdisciplinary collaboration. So not only across all the experts from the different approaches, but also bringing in, for instance, the private sector. Because otherwise we are really going through parallel ways and not encountering it, we will not really achieve a good outcome for humans, for environment, and for animals as well. So this is my key message.
Mm-hmm. And finally, the last but not the least, Constanze.
Oh, I spoke so much, so I don't think I'm able to have a sec. So I do agree with both of you, Robert and Chiara, and I think education is really, really important. And in the vet, as a vet, I think our mission as veterinarians is to educate our students, and I do it on a daily basis, and I also do it on a daily basis with colleagues, which I consult a lot and give a lot of consultation on internal medicine and antimicrobial therapy. So education, and sometimes what I feel, and I like to be here so much with you, is for just transmitting that we are aware what's happening in our part, in our veterinary field, and we are aware that we are very restricted, but using them a lot. And the veterinary hospitals are mimicking the human hospitals. So the veterinary healthcare is mimicking the human healthcare. And so I think more forums for discussion and for between the different settings are really urgent in order to make clear interventions on this issue, this complex issue that really is our planet.
Okay, thank you. So I believe that with this panel of distinguished experts, there will be much more to say about the One Health topic, but unfortunately, we have reached the end of our time. So thank you. Once again, thank you very much to the three outstanding presenters, and I will now give the floor to Ricardo Mexia. Ricardo, over to you.
Thank you so much, Paulo, for the moderating, and also to Carlos for moderating, and our excellent three speakers, Robert, Chiara, and Constanze. It was really an interesting session, and I thank you so much for your time and for your very interesting arguments towards this One Health approach that we all need to take into account while protecting the planetary health and protecting the public's health. So thank you all for attending. We are short on time. As you well know, we do have a quiz at the end of each webinar that enables us to award a prize. The prize is a seat at the dinner and dance event in the conference in November here in Lisbon. This is a link that you can use to participate in the in the quiz. We suggest that you use a mobile device because it's easier to have it that way. I'm going to share my screen right now. Okay. So I hope you're seeing the screen. You can also use this QR code to connect to the session. And I'll now allow for 1 minute for people to join the quiz so that we can start it right now. So I invite you all to participate in the quiz, and we'll have also at the end a prize to be drafted among all participants. So even if you don't answer many correct answers, you'll still get a chance to win a seat at the dinner and dance. Okay, so we already have 12 people logged in. I'll just allow for 1 more minute and then we'll go through the questionnaire. Do look at the mobile to answer the question, because there is indeed a delay between the what's happening here on the stream and what's happening in the quiz. So please use your mobile or the device that you're using to answer the question more than wait to what's happening in the stream, because there is indeed some delay. So we're now at 20 participants. So I'll start the quiz so we can start the answer questions. Okay, so we are all the players we already have registered. So let's see who manages to get the most points. Bear in mind that speed also awards you points. So correct answers that are faster will give you more points. So just 20 more seconds and we'll start the quiz right now. So look at your device, please. So what are the most significant drivers of antimicrobial resistance? Is it antibiotic use in humans and healthcare-related transmission, antibiotic use in humans and animals, antibiotic use in animals and lack of rapid diagnostics, or lack of rapid diagnostics and healthcare-related transmissions? So let's see the answer. Okay, most people did answer correctly, the antibiotic use in humans and animals. So let's see who were the fastest to answer this question. Okay, so Elizabeth is in front, followed by Francisco, and then Diogo, and Sara, and Anna. Let's go towards the next question. So the second question is, when was the term One Health coined? Was it 2004, 2007, 2010, or 2018? Okay. It was indeed in 2004. So also 6 people answered correctly. Let's see how that affects the leaderboard. So Elizabeth is still in front, followed closely by Francisco, and now already the other participants are a bit further away, but there's still much time to recover and get a prize. So which of these organizations is not part of the quadripartite Joint Secretariat on Antimicrobial Resistance? Is it WHO, FAO, OCHA, or UNFE? Yeah, most people answered correctly. It's indeed OCHA. Let's see how this impacts the leaderboard. So Francisco is now in front, Elizabeth is second, Enrique third, and Sarah in fourth place. Let's see the next question. How many are the pillars of the One Health Priority Research Agenda for antimicrobial resistance? Is it 3, 10, 5, or 6? Okay, time is up. Let's see. So it was indeed 5, and most people answered the correct answer. So, well, now Francisco is still in front, but now Maria is following closely, Elder, then Elizabeth, then Diogo. Let's see the next question. So connect the pairs. So please connect the 3 pairs. One Health, planetary health, and equal health, connecting to the Anthropocene, biodiversity, and zoonosis. Okay, let's see. So these were the correct pairs: One Health and zoonosis, planetary health with the Anthropocene, and eco health with biodiversity. So, but many people answered correctly. Let's see who was the fastest. Okay, Mariana is 3 correct answers in a row, but Francisco is in front, Diogo second, Elder third, and Maria in fourth place. Let's see the next question. Which of the following are key concepts in planetary health? Is it transdisciplinarity and social movement, orientation to solutions, transdisciplinary and social movement? Is it multidisciplinarity and economics, or orientation to solutions, public health, and climate justice? Okay, let's see the answer. So actually, most people answered orientation to solutions, public health, and climate justice, but the correct answer was orientation to solutions, transdisciplinarity, and social movement. Let's see how this impacts the leaderboard. Okay, so Francisco is in front, Diogo second, Mariana third, and Enrique in fourth place. Let's see, we're halfway through now to 7 of the 14 questions. So complete the sentence. Has its emphasis on global perspective and sustainability and the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. Is it zoonosis, planetary health, eco-health, or biodiversity? Okay, let's see the answers. Planetary health, indeed, the vast majority of the people answered correctly. Let's see. Okay, now Diogo is in front, Francisco is second, Mariana third, and Enrique in fourth place. Next question, the 8th question. Who was the very first editor-in-chief of the European Journal of Public Health? Was it Martin McKee, Staffan Jansson, Peter Alevek, or Johan Mackenbach? Let's see the answer. Oh, nobody answered the correct one. The first one was Staffan Jansson. I just need to remind you that questions are provided by our speakers for the webinar, but also they come from the UFA trivia game that was distributed in some conferences where we can get several of the questions. So now probably no changes in the leaderboard because there were no correct answers. Let's move on to the next one. So question number 9. Where is the conference going to be organized in 2026? Is it Helsinki? Is it Rome? Is it Bilbao or Lisbon? Let's see. It's indeed in Bilbao. Helsinki is next year's conference in 2025. Lisbon is this year's conference. So in 2026, indeed, it's going to take place in Bilbao. Let's see the leaderboard. Okay, Diogo and Francisco are neck and neck, Mariana trailing behind, then Joanna, then Raquel. Let's see the last 4 questions. What was published at the 10th anniversary of UFA? Was it the UFA cookbook, UFA's first strategy, the UFA dictionary, or all 3 of them? Okay, let's see the answer. It was indeed the first strategy. We're now discussing the strategy for the next 5 years, but into the 10th anniversary, it was UFA's first strategy that was published. Let's see. So now Francisco is in front, then Diogo in second, Mariana third, Elizabeth fourth, and Jose Shan is in 5th place. Last 3 questions. How many countries started UFA in 1992? Was it 5, 12, 15, or 20? Okay, it was indeed 12. So most people answered correctly. Let's see the leaderboard. Francisco is now with 3 correct answers in a row, leading, then Diogo, then Mariana, then Elizabeth. Let's see. Question number 12. What is the correct name for UFA SSWH? Is it Section of Security, Work and Health, Section of Social Services, Work and Health, Section of Social Security, Work and Health, Section of Security, Workforce and Health? It was the Section of Social Security, Work and Health. So 6 people answered correctly. Let's look it up. So Francisco now is getting ahead of the competition. Diogo is second, Mariana third, José Shan is in 4th place. So only 2 questions to go. Which large public square in Lisbon, also known as Terreiro do Passo, is located next to the Tagus River and was the site of the royal palace before the 1755 earthquake? Is it the Rocio Square, Figueira Square, Comércio Square, or Martim Muniz Square? And that's a beautiful picture of the arch that's overlooking the square. Let's see the answer. Comércio Square. So the vast majority of the people answered correctly. So now speed was really very relevant, but no change in the first 4 places. So this is the last question. Let's see how it goes. When is the deadline for presenters to register for the conference? Is it... Oh no, we're waiting for the platform to respond. Is it the 15th of July, the 1st of July, the 5th of July, or the 30th of July? It is indeed the 15th of July. So mid next month, if you got a presentation or a workshop accepted, you should register to make sure that you will be included in the program. So don't forget about that deadline. So, and this is the end. So congratulations to Francisco, who has won once again the quiz. Diogo is in 2nd place, Mariana in 3rd, and José Shan is in 4th place. So congratulations to all the players, then Teresa, Joana, Elder. As you know, we will keep adding these points to an overall total that will provide a free registration for the conference. So I hope that you continue to participate regularly in the quiz to win the prize. But not all prizes are awarded through answering the questions. You can also get prizes by drafting. So we now have a draft for also a free entrance for the gala dinner. So let's see who's the lucky winner today. Okay, congratulations, Maria. You've won an entrance for the dinner and dance on the conference. It will take place at Stufa Fria in Lisbon. So one last slide before we leave, which is for you to provide us with which word would you use to describe the webinar. So please type in what you would use to describe this webinar. I take the opportunity to thank once again our distinguished speakers. It was really a very interesting session. I hope you all enjoyed. You'll be able to review the session online. They'll be available both at the social media, but also at the European Public Health Conference website. So stay tuned. It will surely be a very interesting conference here in Lisbon, and we'll be much looking forward to welcome you here. So without further ado, I would thank you all. Stay tuned as well to find which will be the next webinar and do participate. So the word cloud is showing interesting, medical, educational, good perspective, enlightening, antibiotics, insightful, transdisciplinary. So once again, thank you all for participating, and looking forward to see you at the next webinar, but also looking forward to see you in Lisbon in the near future, especially during the November conference. All the best and see you soon.